and whether indeed it was one to try and mediate or bring some kind of cohesion in the country. Prof, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program. What's your take on President Mbeki's visit to Zimbabwe?
It's very confusing because I met with the delegation, though not with Mbeki himself, but there were very strenuous denials that was involved in any kind of mediation. That was just making courtesy calls, and the suggestion even that it come on a business trip on behalf of one or the other of your multinationals in South Africa, which he has been doing over the years, if you didn't know. So it was very clear. But in the end, he has met almost everybody. And more than that, he has almost confirmed the fears of Zimbabweans who are wild on social media, expressing aversion and disapproval of Mbeki's involvement in Zimbabwe, apropos 2008, for which is blamed for saving Mugabe and ZANU-PF. He met with the Mnangagwa, but also met with the Pollard people, a kind of collection of losers, one may put it, but people of no significance in terms of political parties. And Mbeki met them, as he did many other people. So it's not clear what his role is. I dare say that it's still very much a mixed bag. There's no clarity. It's also because some of us, and I'm talking about those of us who are involved in the initiative called the National Convergence Platform, feel that there should be no dialogue at all until we define precisely what the dialogue should be about. The dialogue must take into account the legitimacy issue, must take into account the rigging of elections, must take into account the violence, the killings on the 1st of August, the killings in January. The violence must take into account the fact that we have no constitutional order in this country. There's been no marrying of the constitution with the new laws, with the laws of the new constitution. The new constitution has not been implemented. We have virtually a military state in the country. And therefore, you can't speak about dialogue without putting all those things on the table, including the need for economic reform, and not to mention the dire straits the country finds itself. Probably the worst situation ever since in my adulthood, since UDI. It's the worst crisis we ever faced. And I dare say it's the worst government ever in terms of the composition and content. Yes.
So, Prof, those in charge, the governing party, must be fully aware of the challenges that the country is facing. Are you saying that they are being intransigent, or is it that just not really sure how to manage a very difficult situation?
Yeah, the latter is true. They have no capacity to turn things around. And this observation is shared not only by those of us who are close to the situation, but even the international community, including the Chinese. They say that this government has no capacity to turn around this country. They can't. There's no capacity to reform. As Jonathan Moyo once said, "Don't expect us to reform ourselves out of power." That is the dilemma, basically. They know how bad things are, but they're entirely helpless. And I might add, the frenzied feeding on the trough, from the trough right now, suggests people who are very insecure about tomorrow. People who feel they have to eat quickly before they move on. They are just people. I don't think they sleep, actually.
The just concluded ZANU-PF conference, did that give any direction as to how the governing party would like to take the country forwards, and if what they're saying is doable?
People would be naive to expect any kind of ZANU-PF conferences. Those are just ceremonial, end-of-year get-together, a lot of eating, a lot of drinking. And typically and predictably, nothing emerged of any substance from that talk show.
Right. Okay, Professor Ibbo Mandaza, we're going to have to leave that for the time being. So,
I thought you were going to ask me about the disruption of our book fair, our book launch yesterday.
oh my goodness, so tell us about that.
Yes, well, we had another demonstration of the extent to which there's no rule of law, the extent to which the Mnangagwa Chiwenga state is trying to close space, the metal space. Some of us have been in this arena for a long time, holding intellectual discussions at SABC Trust and in other fora. And we have had many book launches over the years, and think yourself, this Segura Ndoro. That is Ndoro.
Yes, so do you know why they disrupted this one?
Well, first of all, the book, they didn't like the book. Jonathan Moyer's book, the Excel Gate, how the 2018 presidential election in Zimbabwe was stolen. It's a case study for us as publishers, SABC books. It's a very interesting case study on how elections are rigged in Zimbabwe, and taking advantage of immense research done. Jonathan Moyer had done a book earlier in 1992, Voting for Democracy. So he has some experience academically in the conduct of elections, not to mention his own experience as part of the ZANU-PF regime. So for us as publishers, we're interested in understanding and in exposing how elections are rigged in Zimbabwe since 2000. He shows that the elections have been rigged since 1985. But in particular, how the election was rigged in 2018, especially the presidential election. So the detailed account. So they didn't want to hear anything about that. So they came here with enormous police protection for the event. The police last minute pulled out. So there was rampage here.
So is this book based on actual evidence, Professor Mandaza?
Yes, actual evidence, including Zek's own reports. Even if these reports were inadvertent, they didn't realize that people would pick holes into it. And then an admission, for example, that the normal procedure or the electoral procedure for transmission of results, this was completely flouted. They adopted what they called a kind of emergency. And they show it with the chart, showing, for example, how the server would have been disabled at 4 a.m. on the morning after the election, and then an Excel spreadsheet employed into which were punched fake V11 for 2 days after the election. You know, so all that is taken, and also using reports from the observer missions, the EU observer mission, for example, found this happening in Makoni North, where DEC officials were punching into a spreadsheet results, which had nothing to do with the actual election results.
All right, Professor
So
Mandaza,
all that is there. Yes.
we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, but I think this is certainly a conversation that we need to have again and perhaps focus a little bit more on the contents of that book. But thanks so much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us today. That's Professor Ibbo Mandaza joining us from Harare, saying that all is not well in the country north of South Africa.